All right, this is going to be a really cool pattern. I've been tying this type of emerger for years, and you can switch the color up to match it up to pretty much any mayfly you want to kind of imitate. I'm going to do this one in Hendrickson, but of course, if you wanted to do anything else, just switch up the color, switch up the size. Pretty cool pattern. All right, so in the hook is a size 14 klinkhammer hook. I like these hooks for this pattern because on the top here, we're going to get a really nice kind of ring of deer hair there. That's going to kind of sit flat on the water. And the klinkhammer hooks, the emerger part down here in the bend goes a little bit deeper down. So it's a perfect type hook for what we're doing here. And the thread, some 18-aught nanosilk. And all we're going to do is going to get a little bit of our thread started there. And we're going to tie in the weird stuff first. This has a couple of weird things here that I kind of want to show you. So what this is just some mesh netting, and you can just go on Amazon and get a little bit of this. They sell it in big rolls. I would show you the roll, but I got to dig for it. It's just a couple of bucks for an entire roll, and honestly, I will never use this in a lifetime ever. The amount that they give you is way more than you would ever need. Another thing I'm going to tie in, this is a bag of these little colored polypropylene balls. You can get them, I think I got these from Amazon, but you can get them from any craft store all over the place. They float like crazy. They're like little foam balls. And I have different colors, but this variety bag here is good because, you know, listen, the number that are in here, if you tie that many flies, then, I don't know, you tie a hell of a lot more than anybody I've ever met. So that'll be more than enough for you. So all we're going to do is we're going to take this netting. I'm going to take one of these balls. I'm going to use white for this one. You can use any color you want. Obviously, the fish aren't going to see it, so use, you know, whatever color you're going to be able to see the best. I like white. I like black, yellow. I use a bunch of different types. So we're going to put that ball in the mesh netting, and I'm going to twist it to try to get a nice, precise tie-in point. So that's what we're going to see there. And I'm just going to take that tie-in point. I'm going to lay that right where my thread is, go over the top, and just tie that mesh netting in just like that. We'll go down a little bit and get that cut off. Cut that at a little bit of an angle there. Okay. All right, so let's get the bottom part tied in. And for the trailing shuck, I'm going to use a little bit of this sparkle emerger here in brown. So I got a chunk of that cut off here. I'm going to go in from the back, get that secured, and I'm going to hold that nice and tight as I go down the shank. And I want to try to get this pretty deep down into the bend. I'm going to put tension on that the entire time. Got to try to not catch your thread on the hook point there. There we go. Doesn't quite reach my material holder, so I'm gonna cut that right now. Okay. Next order of business. And I just got to find the one I'm using here. I've got some brown turkey biots. There, I'm gonna pull one of these large pieces off of here. For bodies, I use turkey biots. If you watch any of my other videos for tails and anything else with nymphs, I like duck biots over goose biots. For bodies, I don't think there's any second though. I use turkey every time. So best way to do this, that rigid part, make sure that's on the top. So if the rigid part is on the top, I'm going to take the tip, I'm going to slip that in there, and get that tied in. Perfect. We're going to bring our thread all the way up to the top. I completely forgot to cut this part off. Yeah, I like doing full-length videos, but that is the tough part. You know, you don't get the editing, and if you forget steps like what I just forgot, I mean, I caught it, but the number of videos I made where I've just completely forgot steps is just very time consuming. You know, you watch the finished product, you think those mistakes are never made, but trust me, they're made all the time. So the reason why you want that ridge on top is because when I pull that biot towards me, and then fold it over the top, that's where you're going to get that segmented look. And I see a lot of flies online where the biot is kind of tied in backwards. And there are some scenarios where if that's the look you're shooting for, that's fine, but that segmented insect body look that we're looking for, you're going to get that if you leave the ridge on the top. See how that's sticking up like that? That's kind of the look I'm shooting for. And again, if you tie it in backwards and you like that look better, that's fine, but you're going to get far fewer ridges, and I don't really think that that accomplishes the look that we're ultimately trying to shoot for here. So we're going to bring this all the way up right to where that biot meets the ball. And I'm going to swing my thread around. Be careful here, because if you don't get the main part up here on the body, that thread can slice that biot, and then you'll lose all the work you just did, which actually it seems like it might have done that a little bit. Let me get that out of there. Yeah, you got to be careful with this nano thread. It's great stuff. Super thin, super strong, but in some scenarios, it can definitely cut right through. Okay, good. So, I got a little tag there that I'm not loving. Not that it really matters, but I freak out about that kind of stuff. All right. Okay, so again, you can do this for any type of mayfly that you're trying to imitate. I tie these in almost every type of dry fly that I tie. This one is going to be Hendrickson. So with a dark Hendrickson, I got some dark Hendrickson dubbing here. We're going to get some of that on the head. Get that dubbed on there nice and tight. And there's an area in front of and behind this polypropylene ball. This dubbing is going to go behind it. And before I dub in front, there's a step that I have to make sure that I do. So, all right, so get that dubbed up nicely, get all that covered, get right up to the ball. That looks good. I'm going to fill that in a little bit more with a little bit more of that dubbing. One of the cool things about this pattern is between the deer hair, the dubbing, I mean, this thing really floats. Floats like an absolute core. Plus that polypropylene ball on top. I use this. I don't fish a lot of dry flies in still waters, but this is one of the primary emergers that I do use in still waters. It's just the scraggly look of the deer hair parachute that we're going to make. It just, I don't know if it comes off as an injured insect, but that's what it is to me. To me, this is a better imitation of a cripple than the way you would traditionally tie a cripple. I mean, again, at the end of the day, what the hell do I know? But that's the way I see this fly. Okay, so we got the dubbing in, we got everything all ready to roll. So what I'm going to do now, you don't need a large dubbing loop. Actually, you need, if anything, a smaller one, if anything. So I'm going to go and I'm just going to make a loop here. I'm going to do some wraps. I'm going to come around the other way, make sure that's good and secure. Small dubbing loop. It also helps with the small diameter of this thread. Okay, so for this application, I like this dubbing tool here by Smayan, or however the hell you pronounce that. I like it because you can squeeze it and open it up, and that really does provide a really key feature for this technique. So I'm going to kind of hang that there and let that sit for a minute. And what I have is I have a patch of this short deer hair, nice short deer hair, and I've got a material clip. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my material clip and I'm going to slide it horizontally along that deer hair patch so that I can collect a row of deer hair. And then I'm going to squeeze it tight. When I get the length that I want, probably at some point should have a separate camera to show you this part. But But ultimately what you end up with is something that looks like that. So you go right into the deer hair, measure it out to the length that you want, cut it, and you're kind of in business here. So I'm going to trim that a little bit more so that I got a nice straight line there for the hair. This is the tricky part. So I'm going to take my dubbing twister. I'm going to slide that deer hair right up to the front. I'm going to open up the loop by squeezing the tool. If you don't have this tool, you can still do it. It's just a little tougher. The fact that the tool can open itself definitely helps. And then I'm going to lightly, ruin the entire thing. See what I mean about mistakes? All right, no big deal. Actually, to be honest with you, I think I had a little too much deer hair in there anyway. I'm actually not upset that I got to go and do this again. All right, so I'm going to take my clip. I'm going to run it horizontally so that I trap a row of this hair. And then I'm going to pull it up to get the length that I want. And then cut it off. That looks a little bit better. A couple stragglers there, but I think we're going to be okay here. All right, so we're going to open that up. I'm going to slide that in there. Now, one of the things you might want to do to avoid what just happened is let's give the dubbing tool a couple of twists. That'll help squeeze that hair so that when I pull the tool off, the hair stays in there. I'm going to tap a couple of pieces. Got to get, I mean, most of the tips are aligned the way that I want, but some of them came a little bit out of alignment. So all we're going to do now is give this a bunch of twists, make sure that that hair doesn't go anywhere. And you'll see that hair start to coil up, and the more it coils up, the more it'll start to stick straight out. And you want to keep twisting until you have kind of a full uniform thing, a deer hair sticking out, which we're kind of there now. That's starting to look pretty good. I'm going to keep twisting though, because you really don't want any of those fibers to come loose. I want them locked right in there, not going anywhere. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take a pair of English hackle pliers, and I'm going to catch my thread and slide that thread right off my tool. So now I've got a hold of this. And I'm going to start wrapping this around that polypropylene ball, but I want all of my points to go in one direction. So I'm going to kind of stroke everything back as I do that. I'm underneath it once. Underneath it again. Now once you go a couple times, that polypropylene ball is going to kind of stay right where you want it to stay. And now I'm around the front. I'm going to peel everything, come in on the bottom, and then trap all my work with some thread wraps. Wrap that around. The butt ends on this were a little long, but that's not really the end of the world. All right, so I got quite a few wraps in there. And I'm going to take some scissors and I'm going to slip this up in there as far as I can get and get that off. Now, this is where preference comes in. I like this straggly look that you see. I like the fact that there's, fibers kind of sticking all over the place. I think that's one of the appeals of the pattern. I do want to kind of limit what I have here on the bottom, so I'm going to do some snipping there. But by all means, you absolutely can leave that there. The whole nature of this pattern is that kind of messy look there, so I really like this. You don't have to snip it. That's what the bottom's going to look like. I do want it. The only reason why I clean it up is because I don't want the deer hair to cover up too much of that colored dubbing. If I'm shooting for a specific species, I said before that this is going to be a Hendrickson. So I want some of that Hendrickson dubbing to kind of come through. So that's why I trimmed the bottom. But you can kind of see in the bottom that's a really, really cool profile. Now, I think in this one I might have used a little too much hair, so a little bit more sparse would be good, but man, that is a really, really cool profile for an emerger. That's one of the reasons why I love this fly. Okay, so final step, we're going to go back to the dubbing. Let's get our thread kind of covered up here with some more of this dark Hendrickson stuff. This is just regular dark Hendrickson dry fly dubbing. I don't remember the brand, but something pretty readily available. You can get it everywhere. Get a good dose of that on there. I make very sparse dubbing noodles. My dubbing noodles are very, very thin so that I can control them a little bit more. So now we're going to peel that hair back, and we're going to get that dubbing noodle up underneath there. It's a little too much dubbing, but we'll be fine. Actually, yeah, I'm going to pull some of that off of there. We're kind of good where we are now. And I'm just kind of snapping my thread and getting as much of that off of there as I can. Okay, final step here. Get into my whip finish tool. Continue to hold everything back. Get a nice clean finished off head on there. It's one of the things that I love about this nanosilk thread. You can really get in a multiple turn strong whip finish in there, and that GSP thread will slide right through. It won't catch, won't snap. Nice solid finish. Flatten that all back out. And we look good to go. So there is your deer hair parachute emerger. Again, this one is Hendrickson, but you can do this in pretty much any mayfly you want. Polypropylene ball on top, that really helps with flotation. Fantastic fly, floats like crazy. I use it in still waters, rivers, and I tie a different color for pretty much every mayfly that I like to fish. So any questions or anything, leave them right in the comments. Be more than happy to help anybody. It's a fantastic fly. Definitely give that a try. Mix up the colors of the polypropylene ball. I'll look back and I'll see if I can find the Amazon link, and maybe I post it in the comments. But honestly, it's pretty easy to find. That mesh netting and the polypropylene balls, craft store, Amazon, really easy to find. But if you do have any trouble, reach out to me. I can dig up the old link of where I got it from. So give it a try, experiment, mix up some different colors. It's a fantastic fly.